Hi, this is Darren Drew from D. Drew Guitars. This is part two about gluing on a maple top on the body. And one thing I may not have gone over last time is you want these edges to fit together perfectly so that there's no seam in the middle. And I do that by putting sticky tape on my table saw, run my fence next to it, and then sand it very carefully like this. And after you have one side glued on, I have a lot of bend to my body, so it makes this line not exactly straight. So you got to work on it to keep it, to make it fit right. And before I go to glue it on, I have a 220 block here. Flatten it out. You can look up in the light and see where you're touching, where you're not. You want it to be touching everywhere, so it's got a good glue joint. I also scribed the wood pieces on both sides. Also, I have screws that I will screw it down to, and I use like the neck screw where the neck bolts will go through, and then here where the trim lobe post will go through. I use those two spots to hold this in place while I'm gluing it, because when you glue it, it's going to want to slide off. I have my clamping blocks, and all I did was reverse them from side to side from the last time. This is for the back side. I have my individual pieces for the front side. Okay, so you want a wet rag with you when you're doing this. So you want this to fit really nice and tight so your clamps can reach in as far as possible. So now let's put some glue on it. I use Titebond 2 or 1, whatever. So you want a generous amount of glue. It's going to be squishing out everywhere, so you want that. That's why you want the wet rag. By a lot of these chambered holes I have in here, I want it a little bit thinner right there per se because I don't want too much to squirt off inside, even though I haven't had the backs glued on yet, so I can I'll be able to clean it out before I glue the backs on, because I like my backs wood to match the front wood. And I have everything fitting good. So you want to put it up on these edges really well as well, because that's an important part of your glue joint. And it's going to drip out and make a mess, but that's okay. That's why we have the rag. And I use as many clamps as I can possibly get on this. I use like C-clamps, because you can put a ton of pressure on them. I use the clamping blocks not to leave clamp marks. And so it distributes the pressure from the clamp across a wider range of surface area. I want to get this glue nice and everywhere. And it's very important to get this glue joint here with the two pieces put together really nice and tight so it doesn't leave a black line, especially on this light colored wood like this. Okay, see, that looks good. Wipe some of this out of here in between right now. Okay, all my pickup lines or slots are all cut out perfectly. I will just tack this down just a little bit for right at the moment. Not all the way tight. Okay, see, I already got a ton of glue to clean up. So let me clean up this glue real quick. You do have plenty of time while the glue is still wet like this. It's not going to dry instantaneously by any means. But it's easy to clean up now, but hard to clean up later. So I will continue to clean it up as I go. Okay, there's my backing board. Clean this up some, But you see, you want the glue to escape like it is, escape. But what I'll do now is I will keep this in mind here. I'll get a long clamp like this. This screw is still loose. And I will push this top all the way over as tight as I can. Holding this down. And you want your screws to be countersunk so that my blocks on the top side won't be hitting the screw head. And you want the screw to also slide through the hole so that it's not holding, excess pressure on it. Clamp this nice and tight. Push these down. Now I can tighten my screws. I see glue coming out everywhere, which is good. Okay, now that I have those screws tight, I'll clean up some more excess. Because now is the time to do it. Get a screwdriver and you can use it. Clean this out, because cleaning this part out later would be really a drag. You wouldn't be able to get it all out nice and smooth, and this is where my tremolo is going to go. Okay, so I have that there. This is nice and tight. So now my clamping blocks, I want to put here first. Get my one that goes underneath lined up correctly. And I'll even just tack it down to hold it in place with clamp like this. Just so it's in the right place. I'll get a deep set clamp, and I'll go from this side so that my clamps won't get in my way to me to clean off the glue on this side. And I want this to be my tightest glue joint right here, my clamp joint. Line my block up just right. Make sure my other one's just right. Clamp this right next to the very edge so I can see my glue joint. And clamp this really nice and tight. And then I will get another clamp. And I'll put it on this very edge here because I don't want my top to move whatsoever, especially on this top glue joint. My bottom piece is okay. My clamping block. And I'll just try to twist this over so I can have more room over here to clean up all the excess of my glue coming out. And you guys will think that this is tight enough. It's not. See, more glue to clean up. My clamps, I had them here. That would be in the way, so I don't want to do that. Okay, so now I will get a wrench, and I will tighten these up with the wrench. Okay, that should be enough for that. And put some real pressure on this thing. And I will do this over and over as I'm gluing this on, just to keep this line nice and tight. Now I'll clamp this one. Another deep reach clamp. And it's always a good idea to have your clamps pretty much the right height that you are going to be using them, clamping them. I still want to see this glue joint too. And I want my clamp right to the edge as close as I can get it. This is my main line here first, is to make this a very good glue joint, nice and tight up here. Like I said, because it's got to match this other top. And of course I already have all my flaming matching from before. I'll tighten this up some more with the wrench. See how much more you can get with the leverage of a longer arm on there. I'll clean up some of this glue that's in here now. And this takes a lot of work actually, but you want a good, I can take this out of my way. You want a nice good, glue joint everywhere. If you don't have a good glue joint, the guitar's not gonna sound as good. Okay, I'll put another clamp right here. Let me use one of these. Now going from this side here. That ain't gonna be any good. Move this clamp back out of my way just so I can clean up all the excess glue over here that's going to come out. Okay. Now see, I still have a ton of glue in here. I want to get while I can. So now I have another piece that's going to go right here. Another piece that's going to go right here. And another piece that's going to go right here. I still want to put a clamp on here. Perfect. And I will put on as many clamps as I possibly can, or that I have, working my way from the inside out. Always. But this is like one of the most important glue joints, especially on light colored woods like this. Your glue joint will end up being black unless you do this. Okay. Now I'll use some more clamps. And the deeper ones in the middle as far as I can reach with them. The bigger. Which really don't have too many more. Go over here with this one. And I like separate pieces because I do have a little bit of a bend to my bodies. Separate pieces will make it, clamp this part, then this part, then this part, and follow the curve of my body. Okay, now this, I don't need to tighten quite as much right yet. Because this is my main one that I wanted really, really tight. And see, this is why you want the body trimmed off and your clamping blocks as much as possible beforehand, so you can get this clamps in there as far as you possibly can. And the reason why you use clamp blocks, so you don't leave clamp marks, of course. And once I get all of these tight on here, I will tighten them all with the wrench and pliers, as you'll see. And then I will come back and tighten them 5 minutes later, and then another 5 minutes later, because they will just have a little bit more to go, actually, to keep it nice and tight. Here's a deeper clamp, but you've got it too late now. So now I can start putting some of these. Let me see if this will go farther in. I like to get as many as I can farther in as I possibly can too. Yeah, see, that'll work right there. And you'll think this is awful lot of clamps. No, I'm only halfway there with the clamps. I like to get them spread out evenly as much as possible. And okay, I'll go back with the wrench later. Let me clean some of this glue that's dripping off. Now it's much easier. You have less to clean up later. It's easy now because it's wet. And you want glue to be coming out pretty much everywhere. That way you know you used enough, because you want to make sure glue is everywhere. Okay, now what I'll do is I will flip this over and I will start putting clamps on from the other direction so that I can reach the handles well or easier. Get all this glue out of here while I can. So now I have this type of clamp. And I'll start clamping this thing closer to the edges with these. Because I want my edges nice and tight. First I'll just put them on, then I'll use the pliers to tighten them up more. For a good sounding instrument, you want it to resonate right. All of this stuff has to be really tight. Otherwise it will never resonate correctly. I don't have, it's the only way to do it by hand at home that I have found that leaves a nice tight glue joint and a solid glue surface. See, the more I clamp, of course, the more glue is going to be coming out. And with each clamp I put on makes it harder to get it out. So I kind of want to keep cleaning this as much as I can all the time. And I know this video is going to be long, but that's just kind of the way it is. And see, I'll put on as many clamps as I have, or as many as I can fit on here, because I want a nice tight glue joint. It's so important. It took me many guitars to figure this whole method out to do it correctly. But you need to block sand first with a block like this, hard block, and make sure that it's nice and flat everywhere before you even start to glue this on. Okay, I'm starting to get out of room, so I'm going to start tightening some of these up with my pliers. Let me get another one or two more on first. Have all your clamps ready to go. So please like, please subscribe, and I'll be teaching you more things always in the future. So you get a lot more turns and pressure when you use pliers and a wrench. And this is a lot of hard work. See how many more turns I get out of that? And see, it just loosened that clamp up there. That's why you want to get them nice and tight. So, and then minimum, let this sit for 2 days minimum. So the dry glues as much as it possibly can. See how many more turns I get? And I will put on at least 2 more clamps that I have. And then I will tighten them again and again and again on both sides, both the C clamps and these clamps. and make sure that it's really nice and tight. I'm trying to clean up my glue as I go. And that's how you do it. So please like, please subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one. Thank you very much. This is Darren Drew saying bye.